What is up, everybody? Bob here from Prospect Analytics. It's officially been 1 month since the release of 2026 Bowman as of, I believe Saturday. So 1 month and a couple of days. So now we're getting into that period where it might be time to go ahead and start buying some singles of the guys that may be priced too low. Now, the question is, how do we find those guys? Well, luckily, I have gathered some data from you, courtesy of ProspectPulse and our good friend Dahl, who puts all of the pricing together. I'm going to go over every first base autograph that you can hit in 2026 Bowman and rank them based on their average prices as of this morning. And then we'll go into parallel multipliers and we'll see how each color is selling so far in the first month. And then I'll get into a little bit of 2026 Bowman Sapphire, tell you which guys from that 2026 Bowman checklist will have an autograph in the Sapphire version of this product and give you a little run through on that. Then stay tuned until the end. I'll give you some information on how to get to the site and use a free trial so that you can look at my personal rankings and who I am buying in this product today. So let's go ahead and jump into the first base autograph prices. Now, there are 76 first base chrome autographs that you can hit in 2026 Bowman. Well, I should say 75 because, as you'll see, the NA next to Dylan Lewis of the Yankees, who is now a Marlins prospect, he actually does not have a base autograph. So if you are chasing him in breaks, just note that you do run a higher risk of skunking on Dylan Lewis because he does not have any base autographs. Now, he does have all of the color variations as far as I know, but that no base autograph stings a little bit. But then after him, you have 26 names that are currently selling on average for under $7 on the base autograph. I've got the pitchers highlighted in pink here and the hitters in blue. Now, these are all players that have first autographs in 2026 Bowman. There's actually a couple good sleepers in here. I can tell you, I like Jose Urbina and David Davalillo if you like to go the pitcher's route. Honestly, Ethan Dorches, I think, is a little bit underpriced. Trey Gibson is just a shame. He would have been probably a top 4 or 5 pitcher for me in this product had these cards come out prior to him making his debut. We could have gotten that nice debut bump, but of course he had made his debut. He hasn't been spectacular, so that kind of like kills your Bowman value. I do think he's still a little bit undervalued just because he's already made it to the MLB, which is more than you can say for a lot of these guys. But Urbina, Davalillo, Dorches, those are all kind of a good look under $7. And in the hitters, you actually have quite a bit of sneaky talent here under $7. There's one guy in particular. If you go over to the site, I do my weekly hot sheets. Yesterday, I put out the hitters hot sheet for last week, and there is a player on this list you're looking at right now who led AA in OPS last week among players with a Bowman autograph, and his autograph is still under $6. He's also age appropriate for that AA level. So you're talking about almost to the highest level of the minor leagues, performing really well, still has a base autograph under $7. Make sure you go take a look at my hitters hot sheet from yesterday on the site to see who that might be. But there's a lot of sneaky talent here. But if we take Dylan Lewis off because he doesn't have a base, that's 26 names out of the 75 who are currently selling for under $7 on average. So if you're opening boxes, you're hopping in breaks, you're trying to resell the cards that you are hitting, I would say that these are probably the players you don't want as of right now because these are averages as of this morning's comps. So these would be the 26 least expensive players that you can hit in this product as far as first autographs. Now we'll hop into the next round here, and that is going to be players with a base autograph that is averaging between $7 and $10, and there are 17 of those names. Again, I've got the hitters in blue and the pitchers in pink for you. Now, I said there was some sneaky talent down in the under $7 range. Obviously, as we go up this next step here, there's even more talent here. I think there's a lot of names in here that are really going to surprise people, especially if you know me. There are 2 hitters in particular back-to-back in that 40-41 spot, and Sam Peterson of the Nationals and Handle-Free Encarnacion of the Brewers, who I have been higher than consensus on since before this product was released. Pablo Nunez from the Reds is kind of a sneaky, teenage prospect in that $8 range. Braylon Antunez at the back end of this at $7. He's a really toolsy guy. He has some approach and contact questions, but the power and speed are really good. He had a game earlier this year in the Complex League where he had 2 batted balls over 110 miles an hour. Just really loud tools. So those are kind of the guys that you like to take a chance on under $10, those young teenage prospects, especially in a good organization like the Brewers, who might have some time to develop, have the tools and all that stuff. So there are a lot of good names here that you should look at as well in that $7 to $10 range. And if you're keeping track of the math here, that's 17 names on this graphic. There were 26 names on the last graphic. That means that out of the 75 first base autographs that you can hit in this product, 43 of them, a little over half, are below $10 on average right now. So we'll go up into the next grouping in that top 32, and you can see the ones that are averaging over $10 as of this morning. And there are those names. We have a list of 19 names here that are averaging between $10 and $25 on the average base autograph. Now, if you're someone who likes to buy and hold, you can feast in this section. a lot of the players that when I do my buy ratings, I actually did an article, if you go over to the site, telling you which players I think have the highest buy ratings from this product. Most of the highest buy ratings are on this page right now. Take a screenshot of this page. Some of these names are very, very sneaky. Dasan Hill, he's struggling a little bit with command right now, but as far as ceiling, he's one of my favorite pitchers in this entire release. I think I had him as a top 5 pitcher. Very good upside there by $13, and he's side by side with Blaine Bullard of the Blue Jays, who I think I might have more money invested in of anybody in this entire product. Now, that doesn't mean I think that he's the best. It's just when you're weighing the tools, you weigh the ceiling versus the price. That's kind of how I gauge the buying value. Blaine Bullard is a very sneaky name that I think could pop that people are sleeping on. Coy James right underneath him, another one with really good hobby tools, power and speed. David Shields of the Royals under $15. He's going to show up on my pitcher's hot sheet today. He's a buy for me also. I kind of like him. He's very sneaky. Owen Carey of the Braves is a sneaky name to watch. Seo-Jun Moon is a teenage pitcher from Korea. In the complex league right now, he's only thrown a handful of innings, and you don't really know what the floor is with those type of guys. They could be absolutely nothing, but because of the upside, they're always kind of a fun player to stash. Merrick Houston is an interesting player, one of the highest signing bonuses of every player on this checklist. Now the problem with him is that all of the tools are good except for the power, and that's kind of the one that sells in Bowman. But if you want to take a chance on a guy with really good defense, really good speed, really good hit tool, $20 is not a bad floor for a player who should progress through the minor league levels pretty quickly as a mid first round pick with, just a solid floor because of those other tools. But when you get into this 14, 15, 16 range, man, this is a fun one. Luis Arana has gotten a lot of buzz lately for the Marlins. He's a young prospect who was recently promoted to single A, whose bat to ball skills are incredible. Daniel Pierce was a top 10 chase for me in this product. Really good upside and a great developmental organization with the Rays. But how about Juan Sanchez of the Blue Jays? I didn't want to love the Blue Jays as much as I do in this product, but you're looking at those two names side by side in 16 and 26. Blaine Bullard and Juan Sanchez, probably the two players I have the most cards of right now. I think what happens during these Bowman releases is that since it's during the season, a lot of people will just pull up stats, and sometimes you got to look a little bit deeper than that. Juan Sanchez is an 18-year-old kid who dominated in the DSL. He came over here. He skipped the complex league because the Blue Jays thought so highly of him. That's not a jump you see often. You saw it with Kevin Alvarez, Elian Pena, usually the top tier international names skip the complex league. That is Juan Sanchez. The season-long line isn't that great, but he's been hot. He was on the hot sheet 2 weeks ago. He barely missed this past week with a 950 OPS. Again, he's an 18-year-old in single A. I see this Toronto team live because they're in the Florida league where I live. I like what I've seen from Bullard and Sanchez. You look at those two names side by side. I think those are two that you should really take a look at their current prices. But then we'll get into the top of the list, the top 13, and that is all of the players with a base autograph averaging over $25. And that list looks like this. It's so funny. We talk about pitchers. A lot of people look more forward to my pitchers rankings than my hitters. There was a time where the pitcher was dead. Skeens Mania kind of changed that around. Now, all of a sudden, if you look back at the graphics, you get down to the bottom rankings. I think in the final 26 price rankings in this product, there's only 3 or 4 pitchers, and yet you have 4 of them in the top 13. The pitchers are selling extremely well, and that's not even counting Seo-Jung Kim, who is the most expensive player in this product, who's a two-way prospect. You then have Wei-En Lin, number 2 overall. Now, his price, you kind of have to take with a grain of salt. His base autograph is a redemption, and they are extremely short printed, so that probably is why they're selling so high. I don't know that his colors are going to multiply from that base autograph because the base is probably the only one that's short printed as far as I know. But as far as base autograph prices, he is number 2 in the product right now, followed by Ethan Holiday at 3, Edward Florentino at 4, Andrew Fisher, who just seems to be lighting the world on fire, at 5. Iva Arquette at 6. One of the biggest surprises of this year, Eric Hartman at number 7. Gage Jump, who has made his MLB debut, and he looks great for the A's lately, at number 8. Justin Gonzalez of the Red Sox at number 9. Wahiwa Aloy of the Orioles at number 10. Then we have our back-to-back pitchers who are actually my 1A and 1B chases for the pitcher side in this product, and Kendry Churio, who was just promoted to high A at age 18, which is incredible, and Caden Scarborough of the Rangers. And then rounding it out is Roldy Brito of the Rockies, another very sneaky name. I don't typically go after the big names. My thing is kind of finding value. I really like to go into that under $20 range and find guys that I think have what it takes to really be a hobby name and kind of see that exponential growth. When you get up into these guys that are over $100, they're not bad buys, but they're already priced so high that, it kind of only gives you so much room that can go up. Now, with that being said, I can tell you that on the right side of that, in that 1 through 6, there is a player whose price I'm buying all day long. at over $95. He's one of the highest rated buys on my ranking sheet. If you go ahead and take a look at my hitters rankings, which updated last week. So just because you're expensive and you're in a product that just came out a month ago, it does not mean that there is no value in your cards. A lot of times, as I said, people look at the stats too closely. You start to struggle during the season. A lot of people will bail on your cards, especially if it's the first month after the release. But obviously, when I make my rankings and I scout these players prior to these products coming out, I have factored in the ceiling and what I think of the player. And, a couple weeks worth of bad plate appearances is not going to sway me in either direction. So I actually prefer when guys struggle the first month or so after this product releases, because it gives us the best opportunity to buy low on their cards. And there is a player in that $100 range that I love right now as a buy. So make sure you go over to the site and take a look at my rankings and you can see who that is. Now we will get into the multipliers. Obviously, it's been a month since release. Some of these will change as we get more sales, and there are 37 different parallels that are on the checklist this year. All of this data, by the way, comes from ProspectPulse. If you haven't checked it out, that's ProspectPulseV1.com. Our good friend Dahl puts all this information together. He tracks all of these sales. It is an incredible tool to use for your buying and selling of Bowman. But I want to put this up. I know a lot of people have a hard time trying to figure out multipliers, and there's a little bit of a guessing game. I know for the longest time, we kind of had just basic rules we went by, refractor 2x, true blue was 4x. We used to have these gold was 10. There was these kind of like generalizations that you could make about the multipliers. But since these actually come from completed sales on eBay, these actually paint a much better picture and can get you closer to a true number to use. You'll see next to the average multiplier, that is the number of confirmed sales of each multiplier for all of the players only on the 2026 Bowman Baseball checklist. Now, I will tell you that usually as you get further away from release, these multipliers do come down. It's not uncommon for people to overpay for deep color the first couple of weeks after a release, because more people are likely to let the base prices come down. But when you see a gold or you see an orange and you think, I don't know when the next time I might see this is, you are much more likely to overpay. So some of these multipliers are higher than you'll see in releases from a year or two ago. Expect some of them to come down a touch. But as of right now, on these thousands of sales that Dahl has charted, these are the current multipliers. So you can go ahead, take a screenshot of those if you want, save it for your records. It will help you in pricing your cards from 2026 Bowman. I wouldn't say there are a ton of surprises to me. One that just kind of like stands out is, as kind of an OG Bowman person, I mean, everyone loves a true blue. True blue is like, when you don't want to get into gold and orange, true blue is like the card that I'm looking for when I buy. To see that, they've added all of these. Obviously, you have all of the snack packs. You've got the seed, the gumball, the peanut, the popcorn. Obviously, those are out of 5. You've got this black and white shimmer. You've got black X fractor. You've got this fire fractor, all these reds, all these oranges, all these golds. And what it's done is that now you see there's 37 different parallel colors in 2026 Bowman. True blue is 24th out of 37. So now we've added so many of these out of 3, out of 5, out of 10. We have now made true blue one of the bottom, 15 parallels that you can hit of a card, which just feels absolutely insane to me. But when you keep adding a bunch of things that are lower numbered, that is exactly what will happen. As you see, the bottom here is no surprise. Refractor at about 2.4, and then you kind of have speckle and purple, which trade about evenly, just a step ahead of refractor. And then you can kind of track all those up. I do find it funny that a lot of people like to avoid green, and we have 5 different greens in this release. You got a green, a green for everybody. Green lava, green grass, green reptilian, true green, green shimmer. I mean, I don't know that all of those are necessary. You'd think that they're just killing the value of the cards numbered out of 99 by essentially making them numbered out of 500. We also have an appearance of the yellow X fractor, which looks like it's trading just barely under a yellow. Yellow outselling blue is kind of surprising. I know that it's twice as rare, but typically, the OG Bowman people would much, much rather have a true blue than a yellow. So you almost wonder if as time goes on, you start to see some of these true colors move up the list. Some of these X fractors, waves, shimmers, lavas, and such move down the list. I guess we'll keep an eye on that as we go on. But these are, as of today, based on all of the completed sales from singles on eBay of 2026 Bowman Baseball. This is how the multipliers are shaking out. So if you need to take a picture of that, screenshot it for your records, do so now. We're going to move into the 2026 Bowman Sapphire autograph checklist. All right, here's a little graphic I put together for you. Here are all of the first autographs that were in 2026 Bowman that you can also find in 2026 Bowman Sapphire. You'll see my note there in the bottom left. While they are not first autographs, you also have Kevin McGonigal, Connor Griffin, JJ Weatherholt, Leo DeVries, and Eli Willits on the Chrome Prospect autograph checklist. So you can pull autographs of them, even though it's not their first autographs. And I think if you're pulling autographs that aren't first, those are probably the 5 names that you want. So they did a good job there. Maybe Jesus Madej, you could have swapped in if you'd rather him over Eli Willits. But those 5, couple of Rookie of the Year contenders, is really strong list there. But it's really the first autograph checklist that caught my attention. Now, I don't personally open Sapphire because, the $1,000 plus whatever they charge for a box is kind of steep. But I will give Topps credit in that the reason that they can charge that much is because the autograph checklist is so much less watered down. I just ran through 76 first autographs that are in 2026 Bowman. Only 26 of those 76, so about a third of them, have made the autograph checklist for 2026 Bowman Sapphire. Not only that, but they cut out pretty much all of the low-end names, which is pretty incredible. So you're paying $1,000 plus for a box, but they've really increased the odds that you're going to hit a worthwhile autograph from that box. I mean, you look at it, you have the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, eighth, ninth, and 10th most expensive players in 2026 Bowman in 2026 Bowman Sapphire. The only one you're missing is Eric Hartman, and I honestly think that that's just because his meteoric rise, I mean, who could have seen that coming? They probably didn't know when they sent these cards out to be signed that he was going to be a top 10 name in this product. But other than that, they pretty much nailed all of them. So of the 10 most expensive autographs you can hit in 2026 Bowman, 9 of those 10 you can find in Sapphire. And when you look at the top 20 most expensive autographs that you can hit in 2026 Bowman, 16 of those 20 are on the Sapphire autograph checklist. So that's really good. They did a really good job of getting all of the big names that you want to hit into this product. And on the flip side, when you look at the players that were left out, it's almost entirely filler players. You go down to the bottom, there's only Gabriel Rodriguez and Victor Arias. Those are the only 2 players that appeared on that first slide that I showed you of base autographs under $70. So only 2 of the 26 first autographs on Sapphire are ranked 50th or worse. The other 24 of them are in the top 36 for price. So again, not a product I open. It's hard to justify paying that much for a box. But when you weigh the fact that all of the chances you have of hitting a $5 autograph like you do in 2026 Bowman are so much lower, it's honestly not that bad of a price point. It's just not one that I personally stomach. I would rather wait and buy the singles. I just want to show you that visualization of that checklist. I've seen breakers charging $400 for the Brave spot. A lot of people buying that spot probably don't realize that Eric Hartman does not have an autograph. So it's very important that you know before you hop into any breaks which players you're chasing, which players do have autographs that you can hit. And most importantly, based on how much you're paying for those spots, you want to know how well those cards are going to resell. This is the order that they are selling as far as 2026 Bowman. Now, weigh in, Len, he was a redemption in 2026 Bowman. I don't know if his Sapphire are redemptions. I don't believe that they are. So if that's true, I would imagine that he's probably not going to be the second most expensive player in Sapphire. But aside from him, these price rankings should hold pretty true. And again, I think the Topps did a pretty good job of getting the names that we want from 2026 Bowman into 2026 Bowman Sapphire. Now, of course, Bowman Sapphire has multipliers of their own, and of course, some of those colors have sold since the release, which was about a week ago. But with a limited number of sales, you can't really track a true multiplier, which is why I have gone onto ProspectPulse and gone back to 2025 Bowman, where they have all of these Sapphire multipliers charted there. As I said early on, the colors sometimes will bump up higher than they should on the multipliers because it's a new release. But if you're one who waits for those singles to kind of settle down, or someone who doesn't really want to pay over what you think that card's going to be selling for in a few weeks, these are kind of what you can expect. Now, these are multipliers from the base chrome autograph. So you can go back to that list that I showed you, the first 3 slides. Those are all of the average base autographs. These are where you should expect all of the color multipliers in Sapphire to trade. So base Sapphire at a 199, that autograph tends to trade at about a 2.86. Now, when I did the regular multipliers, you saw that refractor was about 2.4, speckle was about 2.7. So your base Sapphire should be a little bit more expensive than whatever a refractor autograph is going for, closer to a speckle, maybe a touch above. And then you've got the green Sapphire at 3.8x, the gold Sapphire out of 50 trades at around 8.2 based on about a little over 100 sales. Then you step up to the orange Sapphire at 14.7x, the black Sapphire out of 10 at 17.3x, and the red Sapphire out of 5 at 53.6x. Now, the red only has 13 sales. Black only has 27. Obviously, these will change a little bit as you get more sales. Some of them are drastic. You'll see some players trade at 25x for a red and then another trade at 100. So it is kind of when you get into those rare ones and there's not as many sales, it's tough to really nail down an exact multiplier. But luckily, Doll tracks all of those completed sales on eBay for us so that we can get as close as possible. So if you're going to look at 2026 Bowman Sapphire singles, I would personally not use sales in the first week because they will be all over the place. I would go and look at this 2025 Bowman Sapphire multiplier list and try to gauge how much I would pay based on what a player's base autograph has been selling for. Since their base autographs have been out for a month, they're kind of settling down now, and they're not falling off a cliff like they do in the first couple weeks. So if you go back to the first couple of minutes here, you look at those autograph prices, you multiply it using this multiplier, you can kind of figure out what you should be paying when you see those gold sapphires, those orange sapphires pop up in the next week or two. That is going to do it for my 1 month review on the prices for 2026 Bowman, as well as my preview on what to look out for and which players to be looking for in 2026 Bowman Sapphire. Now, if you want to know who to buy in 2026 Bowman, I do have player rankings. I have buy ratings for that product, along with my own prospect rankings that I make for the hobby over at www.prospect-analytics.com. I've added a free 7-day trial that is built in, so whether you sign up for the $9.99 a month or the $99.99 a year option, you will get that free 7-day trial no matter what. You will not be charged if you cancel within the first 7 days. So I strongly encourage you to come over, take a look at the hot sheets that I posted yesterday and today, prospect rankings update every week, and I give you all of the buy ratings and everything that I can to help you get an advantage in the Bowman game. So again, make sure you go over to www.prospect-analytics.com and check it out. Thanks again to everybody who took the time to watch and listen. I hope that this will help you with your buying of 2026 Bowman and Sapphire, and we will see you next time.